People of Reddit who ran into the girl that rejected you in the past. How did it go? Went into pharmacy to get an oral enema to prepare for my colonoscopy. As the pretty pharmacist asked me about the specifics, we slowly recognized each other. It had been about 30 years since I had cried asking her not to break up with me. My dad met my mom at a local bar. At the time he was hanging out with some friends that apparently seemed dirtbaggy, so she gave him the number of a local gas station. 4 years later they are both at the same bar again. He thinks so she looks familiar. He walks over and says, "So how is the gas station doing?" To what she apparently laughed very hard at and then gave him her real number. Lol. I had an ugly duckling phase in early high school. Acne, my teeth were too big for my face, and my arms and legs resembled that of a baby giraffe. There was a girl, let's call her M, that I had a serious crush on. When homecoming came around, I worked up every bit of courage to ask her to go to the dance with me. I did it one-on-one to try and save myself some embarrassment. If she said no, instead of just saying no, she loudly exclaimed she would never be caught dead with someone like me, and then proceeded to tell everyone how she rejected me. 10 years later, I go into a department store to pick up some new clothes and she's working the area I happen to be in. I didn't recognize her, but she recognized me. I don't consider myself attractive, but I'm definitely not the ugly duckling I once was. She said as much and started talking about how great of friends we used to be. I didn't say much. The conversation of grabbing lunch to catch up came up, and that's when I halted the conversation and reminded her how cruel she was to me and left her standing there. I saw a girl from high school at a reunion. She never rejected me because I never had the nerve to ask. At the reunion she confessed that she had a crush on me. You miss all the shots you never take. I met this woman near Christmas of 1999 or 2000. Had a wonderful night of chatting, dancing, just a perfect night. I live near her, so I drop her off in the taxi. She said she was leaving shortly for Australia, so wasn't looking for anything major, but to give her a call later in the week and we'd go do something. She never responded. It was a wonderful night though, and something I always fondly remembered. Fast forward to 2019. I meet this woman on Tinder. We have a great brunch and end it with a hug and a kiss. Start seeing each other regularly. After a couple of weeks I drop her off at her mum's house. Looks so familiar. It's the same house I dropped that woman off 19 years ago. This woman I'm dating is that woman who doesn't remember it. Doesn't remember me at all. Such a wonderful insight into how there's two sides to every tale. We didn't last long as a couple, but it was really interesting to be able to cross off one of those that got away. We went out together, had a fun time, went back to her place, and I got sick and puked in her toilet. Ended up having to crash the night, asked for a kiss in the morning and she just double finger guns and was like, "No dude, you puked." We didn't talk for 3 years. We are dating now, lol. Not really rejected, but dumped and re-met repeatedly. I met a girl in a bar and told her a big tale about how I was hitchhiking around Scotland tomorrow in an attempt to seem like I had some kind of personality and dynamism. It worked and we spent the night together, and during that drunken wild night she decided to accompany me the next day as I went hitchhiking for a week around Scotland. So I did what any horny 19-year-old would do. I agreed we should totally do it. Two strangers drunkenly sharing a one-man tent, sleeping in laybys, and on traffic roundabouts. Of course it was a total disaster. Too many ridiculous stories to tell, but 4 days later she'd had enough and rode off across a loch with a handsome ex-forces guy to visit an island. A euphemism. I went to a bar, and when I woke up her stuff was gone from the tent. I didn't see her again until 15 years later. I bought a house, the neighbor opposite with 3 kids. Lawyer husband, badly parked Jaguar blocking the road. It's her. That first day in 1 second we locked eyes and knew we had to handle this like adults. So, for the next 10 years we avoided ever speaking or acknowledging each other's existence. Luckily 3 years ago we resolved awkwardness as she took the gracious option of moving house. Awkwardness resolved. I fell hard for this lady in university. She did not feel the same way, and I was emotionally damaged for a long time. I really liked her, and it crushed me that the feeling wasn't mutual. Fast forward 3 years. I get better, snap out of my depression, and realize I was in the wrong for the way I ended things. She really liked me as a friend and genuinely cared for me. I reconnect with her and realize she's an awesome friend. She goes through some traumatic experiences and I'm there to support her, but because of this openness I start falling for her again. I'm ready to tell her that I don't think it's healthy for me to be friends like this, and that I'm not angry she doesn't feel the same way. A couple days before I'm about to tell her, she says she's falling in love with me. We both realize we have a messed up history together but nonetheless give it a shot. We've been married for 3 years now. Went on a Tinder date with a girl who had just moved to the city. Date went alright, no major sparks or anything, but seeing as though she was new to the city I offered to meet up again, which she initially seemed interested in. A couple weeks later we planned to meet up, but at the last minute cancelled, saying that she was a litchi and thinks she might have the chicken pox. I thought it was a bit strange, a 25 years old getting chicken pox, but who am I to judge? I told her not to worry and MSG me when she's feeling better to reschedule. Now with no date and a free Friday evening, I hit up a few friends who are meeting up at one of their apartments for drinks and board games. As I'm on my way there, my buddy MSGs the group. He's got a friend in town for the weekend and wants to know if it's okay if he comes along with another friend who just moved to the city. Not thinking anything of it, we all agree that the more the merrier. I arrive at the apartment, and as soon as I walk through the door, who is there sitting on the carpet? None other than Chickenpox Girl, the friend of a friend who had just moved to the city. It all clicks. It takes her a second to realize, but when she does, she instantly drops her glass of red wine all over a white rug. I've never seen anyone look so embarrassed. I make a quick joke that she had the fastest case of chickenpox in the world and she hastily made her exit. All my friends were wondering what was going on when she left, and I finally filled them and we all had a good laugh and enjoyed the rest of the night and the memory of the chickenpox girl. Not exactly a rejection, but after going off to college, my then GF from high school told her ultra-religious mother that we'd been fooling around. Her mother had her break up with me and confessed to their entire church what she'd been doing with me. A few years ago I heard from a friend in my hometown, and he told me that my ex-GF had never done anything after that. She went to college, but it was a local school and she never moved out of her mom's house. She never got a job in her field and still, 20 years later, has the same job she had in high school. Not just the same employer, the same position. She never even dated again after her mom broke us up. It's like she's been stuck in stasis since that time. Back around 11th grade, I had the biggest crush on a girl a class ahead of me. On paper, it never should have worked. I was a bit of a nerd by choice, and somewhat of a loner by no choice of mine. She was the star of the basketball team, and was the homecoming queen and all that, but we had a class together and really got along great and there was a lot of chemistry there. We hung out constantly for a whole semester, and had a great time. Right before Christmas break things finally went great one night and I think we both realized how we felt about each other, except that didn't last long. A lot of the other popular girls started making fun of her and giving her a hard time for liking the class weirdo, and she pretty much ghosted me and didn't talk to me anymore. That hurt bad. It was my first real crush on someone that actually liked me back. So to have that happen at a tender age like that was an absolute dagger to the heart. Around 3 or 4 months later, I went on a school trip with just a few other kids. Another girl in the same class ahead of me seemed super cool, and I was really impressed when she was looking through a vintage store and was interested in some old band stuff and bought an old Aerosmith concert poster. I remember her shouting at me on the bus and thinking I really should talk to her and that she seemed super cool. Well, flash forward about 20 years and that same Aerosmith poster is hanging in our garage. Since then, we've traveled the world, been to a lot of music festivals, and have had a ton of adventures together. If that homecoming queen hadn't dumped me after leading me on for so many months, I'd have not met my wife of over 15 years now. 11th grade me had no way of knowing that at the time, my old crush is doing well. We still keep in touch on Facebook and have run into each other a few times at class reunions and stuff like that. I don't think there's any animosity at all. Maybe just some natural well-meaning awkwardness. She's married and has 2 kids and has done great in her career and I'm really happy for her and don't have any hard feelings about it, especially considering how things turned out. I lost 100 pounds and was in the gym and looked really good. She told me as much, and we talked for a bit about our kids and where our lives had went. She and I remained friends. After she rejected me, she was always very nice to me, and I had no reason to have any animosity towards her. I wished her well, kissed her on the cheek, and moved on. It was a nice interaction. She was my first love, and she broke my heart. I'll let it haunt me. About 4 or 5 years later, we actually started dating again, just long enough to realize we'd both grown in different directions. There was no there anymore. All we ever really had was that we were young together, which was great, but that time was in the past. It was a very therapeutic revelation. Set me free. So shortly after my high school GF and I broke up, my friend introduced me to a friend of his through Facebook. I was incredibly desperate, short on social skills, and generally pretty depressed. I was under all the right conditions to unhealthily latch onto this girl he introduced me to. We started out with texting, just making small talk and being polite, but when I asked if she wanted to meet up, she would always make some excuse or stop replying. Generally the latter. I was a dumb kid though, so I took none of her hint and kept at it. Looking back afterwards, it was easy to see how pushy I was and how anyone would interpret it as creepy. I finally let things go for a while after I had flowers delivered to her at work. I know, I'm cringing while thinking about it. She didn't really seem to respond to the flowers, so I moved on. About a year later I got a new job at her place of employment and we started working together. By now I'd built up some confidence and learned some restraint. Surprisingly, she was still friendly with me. We would hang out some, and occasionally when the talk would turn flirty she wouldn't shut it down. She became my best friend that year. We had so many little fun moments together, and although we never dated, I made some of the best romantic memories of my life with her. One night on the way home from work, her car had a blowout. Knowing I was nearby, she called me and asked for help. So I came by, jacked up her car, and changed her tire for her. It's dumb, I know, but we were both young, and it was this cheesy romantic movie moment where I had come to her rescue and saved the day. She and I would talk about it 4 years afterward on how special a memory it was. Our timing never lined up though, and she met a man that December and married him 2 years later. I met my wife and we've been together for over 10 years now. A couple of years ago, the girl from my story passed away. Our last words spoken to each other weren't the best, unfortunately. I think we each thought we were mad at each other for drifting apart. Now I just wish I could go back and tell her that she was one of my dearest friends, and I'm sorry for whatever part one played in us drifting apart. Shortly after her headstone was placed, I bought a little wooden toy car jack and placed it on her grave. I went to a concert to see one of my favorite bands. A girl noticed a tattoo I had on my side and showed me a similar one that she had. We talked a bit in between bands until I asked for her number to try to talk to her some. She said no, she wasn't cool with that, and I said alright, no worries, and enjoyed the rest of the concert. Few months passed by and the band rolls around again, and there she is again. Didn't try asking again, because she already said no once before. We see tattoos, hug, and how each other are doing, and make small conversations, enjoy the concert, and go our separate ways. Few months pass by again, and the band comes through. See her again, except this time we know each other without having to compare tattoos. We enjoy the show, and as we're leaving I notice she's basically trapped between two guys. She sees me and yells, "Hey, I've been looking for you," ready to head back to the Airbnb. So I said, "I've been trying to find you too." "Yeah, I'm good to go." Walked her the few blocks back to where she was staying. We had a nice chat during the walk and asked if she needs anything before I left, since I had a good drive back home. And that was it. We talk at the occasional shows we see each other at and on from time to time. But I'm glad she felt comfortable enough knowing that she could trust me to make sure she was safe. She came out as gay and broke my heart when we were 19. Took me a couple of years to get over it. I ran into her 10 years later in town. Wasn't too awkward then. She had a long-term partner, as did I, so had a brief chat and went on with our lives. We bumped into each other again a couple of times over the next few years. Some of the same friends, etc. Then a mutual friend died in an accident. We had a get together a couple of months later with many folks who knew him, including my ex. We spent pretty much the whole night chatting Turns out her partner had died recently from cancer. What a shame. She was a lovely woman. I'm happily married now, and my ex knows this, so there was no flirting or anything like that. End of the night came when she told me, we were both quite drunk at this point, that we wasn't sure she was gay. I promptly made my excuses and left. Really didn't feel like continuing with any of the thoughts that brought up. Went home. Carried on with my life. She died last year. Depression led to her shutting herself off from her friends and family. The loss of her partner and general frailty led to her becoming malnourished and generally ill. Still miss her.